Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think You Know Wine. My name is Renée Sferrazza, and I'll be your host for this evening. And tonight we are going to be going through what we normally do through our blind wines with our four critics that we have with us today. Tonight joining us, we have David Lawrason. Hello, David.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Great turnout. Thanks again for joining us. And we hear you guys are just loving this exercise. So we do too.
Amazing. And we also have Sarah D'Amato.
Hi,
hello, Sarah.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. Wow, it's really impressive amount of people that have signed up. Happy to see you back again.
Amazing. We also have Michael Godel. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Renee. Hi, everyone. I'm going to have a little shout out because I'm noticing in the chat, good old friend of mine, Jay, who's moved out to Kelowna, who's joined us tonight. How are you, Jay? Miss you.
Oh, that's amazing. And we also have John Szabo. Hi, John. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. I have to say, this is becoming a fun little rendezvous every other Saturday night, you know? This is a great way to get together. And I did see somebody tuning in from Montenegro. So we have some folks over in Europe watching. Congratulations for staying up this late to join us for, I guess it's no longer aperitif hour there. It's kind of digestif o'clock, but
it sure is. And we also have someone tuning in from Melbourne, Australia. So we have digestif o'clock and also good morning wine. So
Sunday brunch.
Sunday brunch. Thank you. Wine all the time. Amazing. So I'm just going to go over a couple little house rules before we get started, everybody. If you're having trouble viewing the screen as you are coming in and getting settled in today, just go to view options at the top. You can click gallery view or side-by-side view. It'll really change the way your viewing experience is for the evening. So take your time to do that now if you'd like. We're going to have a couple of polls coming throughout the evening, and we'll be prompting you for those. Otherwise, just stay tuned. We'd love to hear your answers to all of our fun questions. And we are going to start getting started. So before we get into everything today, I'm just going to go over the rules that our critics have. Our critics are going to be tasting 3 blind wines tonight, and they're going to be able to score points out of 10. They can get 3 points for varietal, 2 points for country, 1 for region, 1 for appellation, 2 for vintage plus or minus a year, and 1 for price within a 30% range, 15% above and 15% below. Our critics are from Wineline. Wineline is Canada's largest review site that tastes thousands upon thousands of wines per month, and they have an absolutely amazing website if you want to go check it out as well. That's running everything behind the scenes right now. We're going to start off with our first poll of the evening as everybody is settled in. So we're going to put that up and ask our critics, what's in your glass tonight? David, what's in your glass this evening?
Well, I'm drinking a lovely rosé, a Spanish Cava rosé, which is quite rare actually, because it's got the colors coming from a little bit of Monastrell, which is obviously an important grape on sort of that sort of Mediterranean side of Spain. So it's the Reventos y Blanc. It is called Denis, and this wine was actually featured in our wine line exchange case in December, the black or the super premium case. It's a lovely wine.
Fantastic. Is there any significance behind why you're drinking that wine this evening, or just because you like it?
It was actually a little gift. Some of you may know that I've just been through a bout with the virus, and it was a gift from Wineline to celebrate me getting through it and being back. So
we're so happy that you're back and joining us and in good health. We really appreciate that, David.
Thanks, Renee.
You're welcome. Sarah, what are you drinking this evening?
So I'm drinking a little thing here from the Côte de Roussillon, and this is an area, I don't know if you can see that. This is the Clos des Fées, Domaine Clos des Fées. And it's an interesting area that's right butted up against the Spanish border in France. It's Basque country. And it's got some similarities with neighboring Languedoc, especially in the grape varieties. So this producer, his name is Hervé Bizeul, and he's one of the most enigmatic winemakers I think I've ever met in France. And he's got an incredible blog actually about his journey, both when it comes to mental health and winemaking, and his very extraordinary journey. But this is from his home estate, 50 to 100-year-old plantings of Grenache, of Ladonnée Blu, which is a local variety with these very furry leaves, and Carignan and Syrah, and it's quite warming. I should have opened it. I should have waited to open this another 2 years, I'm realizing, but hey.
We all make choices. It's still a delicious choice, which is good anyway. All right, Michael, what are you drinking this evening?
Here we go. No time like the present. So I am drinking, and also a nice little gift from a very good friend of mine. This is a new line of wines to our market, Caleb Leisure Wines, from the Yorkville Highlands in Sonoma, near Glen Ellen. Sauvignon Blanc Semillon, Bordeaux blend, but skin contact, natural, really cool stuff. Kind of reminds me of northeastern Italy, kind of Friuli, Collio kind of area where Sauvignon, a lot of Sauvignon grows, and Friulano. It's kind of got that feel to it, but obviously there's a little more richness of California involved. So, but it's my first experience with this group of wines, and great start.
Amazing. I've heard it's new to the market, so I'm excited to hear your notes on that later. And last but not least, John, what are you drinking tonight? What's in your glass?
I went ultra classic for the aperitif hour. This is Sancerre from Claude Riffaut, 2018. Also coincidentally part of our black box, I believe, back in September. So those of you who are part of the Wine Line Exchange in the black box, you would have had that bottle of this in your box. And I have to say, it is magnificent stuff. It's from a little parcel called Les Boucaux. 50-year-old vines on this argillaceous limestone from the Kimmeridgian era, which means delicious in simple terms. Yes.
In Psalm speak, it means delicious. And today, actually, with all of you, I'm going to be sharing what's in my glass tonight. And it's actually a very important wine to me because there's an event coming up. This is the Narai Cellars Cadence. It is a Bordeaux blend made in Ontario, made by the amazing Steve Byfield. There's an event coming up at the end of the month that I just want to tell everybody about quickly. It's called Celebrating Black Voices in Ontario Food and Wine, with wines from Steve Byfield and food from Suzanne Barr, as well as Anushka Garnier, and it's hosted by Beverly Crandon. So if you guys would like to participate in that event coming up on the 27th of February, just head to my Instagram page. There's a link there, and you can just find it at Wine by Renee. But let's get this evening started. Cheers, everybody. Let's kick off the night. All right, so we are going to start with our first wine of the evening. We see that everybody is kind of drinking our wines for the night. So let's get our critics to open up the wines and pour them in their glasses. And then we're going to send you guys away to the Critics Lounge. Amazing. And to let everybody know, as our critics are getting prepared to go off to the Critics Lounge, they can explore the wine a little bit, and we can find out what it is. We're so happy to hear that most of you this evening are drinking one of the wines that is part of the box for tonight. Just going to wait for our critics to head out of the room. There we go, as they start to explore the wine overall. I am going to remind our audience at this point that if you do have any questions as we go, to please just put them in the question and answer box, and we would absolutely love that. All right, let me start sharing my screen here. And I'll tell you guys about the first wine that we have coming up this evening. So our first wine for tonight is the Hidden Bench Estate Organic Unfiltered. The variety is Pinot Noir. The country is Canada. The region is the Niagara Peninsula. The appellation is the Beamsville Bench. The vintage is 2019. The price is $34.95. And this wine is sponsored by Hidden Bench Winery. So that's our first wine for the evening. All right, so we're gonna bring our critics back into the room.
Also a good little aperitif wine.
Yeah.
It is. And John, I guess I'm gonna be throwing it over to you to start. John, what are your first thoughts on wine number one, other than it being a good little aperitif wine?
Other than that, I mean, the first most notable thing is, of course, the color. I'm sure we'll all comment on this, but it's very, very pale. It's a very thin-skinned variety. It's a delicate wine aromatically. I find there's some wood here. This is a barrel-aged wine, and it's sitting a little bit on top. I think it's really quite young, needs a little bit more time to integrate, but I don't think this is a wine for really long aging either, because the tannins are very delicate. This is more acid-based than tannin on the palate, but it's really quite a joyful burst of tart red fruit, cranberry, cherry. I think it's really quite delightful. It's got a light chill because I just pulled it out of my wine fridge, which is just about perfect for this style of wine.
Absolutely amazing. Michael, what are your first thoughts on wine number one?
Well, I love John's comment, and I think everybody should really pick up on the light hue, thin skin variety connection that John has made. I don't think there's any doubt that that is what we're dealing with here. The question for me, when I nose a wine like this, is it sending me to a new world western frontier? Is it sending me somewhere in the southern hemisphere where there might be a cool climate region within a larger territory? Those are the two things that I'm thinking. And there are quite a few southern hemisphere spots like that, but that's for all of us to figure out in the next 90 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You've really given a lot of pathways for everybody's brain to go down, haven't you? All right, Sarah, what are your thoughts on wine number one? Your first thoughts?
Yeah, so, as they all mentioned, that color really narrows things down a little bit with grape varieties and that are thin skinned like this. They give off less color, but there is something almost a little bit more substantial than certain varieties alone might give that are thin skinned. There is a little bit of barrique aging, certainly very brambly. There is some kind of twiggy notes and dried herbs and red fruit, jammy red fruit as well too. But also lots of freshness, lots of pop. So this could be a few things. I'm narrowing it down as I'm speaking to you.
I can hear it as the gears are turning as we talk. I can hear them. David, what are your first thoughts on wine number one?
Well, I really like it, and as already established, it's certainly light-bodied, pale color. I really like the freshness and vibrancy of this wine. I think that's its key attribute. What makes it delicious. So the acid is fairly high. I mean, some people might even find it a little too tart for their taste, but it's not for me. The tannin level is very low. So again, thin skin variety, and they're not trying to extract a lot of tannin to make this a bigger wine. There is a little barrique, but I don't think it's that strong, personally, barrel aging. So that's left me in a little bit of a conundrum. There's two places I could go in this, and we'll see where I land.
Amazing. We're going to swing back around, but I do want to remind our audience at this point to please not give away what the wine is at any point in time this evening to the critics. We need to make them work as hard as possible. It's very important that we do that because they have specifically requested that I ask you this, as they would like to work as hard as possible. Sorry, guys, just relaying the thought.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's good.
You're welcome. Okay. John. Yeah, why not? John, back over to you. What is your final answer for wine number one?
Well, I'll start with what I'm a little more confident on, and that is the variety. I think this is a wine made from Pinot Noir. It just says all the things that Pinot Noir usually sings to me, in fact. Now, the question is, old world or new world? It's clearly cool climate. I get a bit of a limestone twang here. So I'm thinking a region of limestone. So that takes me to Burgundy or possibly Ontario. And in the end, I'm going to land in Ontario. This tastes actually really quite county-esque, Prince Edward County, that is, but I can't think of what it might be out there. So I'm going to flip back over into Niagara. This is my long roundabout way to get to the answer. It's coming, Renee, I promise. 2018 Niagara Peninsula, Niagara Benchland, Pinot Noir. And I think for this quality, you're going to pay in the $35 range.
Thank you very much. Back over to Michael. Michael, what is your final answer for wine number one?
Should I stick with my original impression?
I don't know, man. You always never do, and I don't know.
I'm going to abandon it. I'm going to say yes. It's Shiraz from the Barossa.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Okay. So I'm so inclined to stick with John on this, but there's something in this that's sending me somewhere else, and there seems to be this streak or river of salinity that could be limestone, but it could also be perhaps a little bit of volcanic, John. No, maybe not.
No way.
Okay, no, I'm getting off topic. But no, this little river of salinity that's running through it takes me out of Ontario, and actually there's a bit more warmth here, but also a bit of leanness. So that to me is West Coast, which is my original impression. So I am also going to say Pinot Noir. I can't imagine it's anything but. I'm going to go to Oregon, specifically Willamette Valley, not specific within the Willamette Valley, but Willamette Valley. I also think it's 2018 like John, and I think when you're considering wines of this ilk and quality price from there, I'd say $26, $26. Okay.
All righty.
Yep.
Amazing. And now over to Sarah. Sarah, what are your thoughts? What is your final answer for wine number 1?
Yeah. So you know what? This reminded me of this this wine from Niagara that I tasted not too long ago by Foreign Affair. It's like Appellation, Gamay, and some Pinot Noir in there. And it really brought me back to Niagara. I don't think it is this. I think it might be a little bit even more expensive than that. But to me, I can't shake the Niagara feeling. So I'm going to say Niagara, Pinot Noir. Is there a bit of Gamay? No, I'm going to say Niagara, Pinot Noir, 2000, and I'm going to go a little bit older. I'm going to say 2018, and I'm going to say the price is $27.
All right. And David, for this round, wine number 1, what is your final answer for
It's
wine number 1?
so much fun going last, right?
I know, right?
listening to them all. Yeah. So I was quite divided on the grape variety here. I'm still not certain, but I have to pick one. So I'm going to go with my first impression on the nose. And it was just this lovely exuberant fruit, lovely red fruits, could be Pinot, could also be Gamay. And based on the lack of tannin in the wine, I'm gonna pick Gamay as the grape variety here. Might have seen a bit of wood. It's definitely cool climate. I think it's Canadian. I'm not convinced about Niagara. It could be from BC. So I think I'm gonna go that route. And it's young. It's 2000 and it's probably 2019 if it's a Gamay. And price about $30. It's a good wine.
All right. And where in BC did you say that you wanted it to be from?
Oh, well, it doesn't have the weight to me of something from the Okanagan necessarily. So I'm inclined to say a cooler region. It could be Similkameen, Vancouver Island, something like that. But I guess
I bet I'm going to press you to pick
one. Okay, all right. But it might also be Narromette. So I'll say Okanagan.
Okay, all right, there we go. You can pick the biggest region you want. You just have to pick
That's
one.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me.
Very strategic, yes.
You can be as strategic as you would like to be. All right, let's find out what wine number 1 is. And remember, everybody that's watching at home, if you do have any questions about this wine or have any questions as we go on through the evening, just put them in the question and answer box instead of in the chat. Put them in the question and answer box. I'll be happy to answer them as we go. So we have wine number 1. Let's find out what the mystery is. All right, wine number 1 is the Hidden Bench Estate Organic Unfiltered Pinot Noir. It's from the region, the country is Canada. The region is Niagara Peninsula. We have the appellation as the Beamsville Bench. 2019 is the vintage, and it's $34.95. That's the price of this wine. You guys had some really, really good moments there. Oh, I see we've lost John for a moment. I'm sure he'll be back shortly. You guys had some really good moments there. What do we think about this being a Pinot Noir?
Well, I was the one that didn't pick it as Pinot Noir, but it's behaving like one, certainly on the nose. I was really torn actually between Gamay and Pinot on this one, but yeah, it's a lovely wine, really well balanced, little fresh and crunchy, and it's going to age quite nicely too.
Amazing. And I'm going to bring up our score now. So I'm going to get our scoring wizards to start sharing their screen. We'll catch John up when he comes, because as he did apparently score the highest score, but he's not here right now. So we can tell him otherwise later. Just kidding. We'll tell him his actual score. All right. So for this round, our winner is John. John has scored 9 points this round. In second place is Sarah. You're only a point behind, Sarah. You could take this. We'll see how it goes throughout the evening. And then David and Michael, you guys are tied for 4 points each. And third, we have no fourth place winner at the moment. So you take down our score for now. And I'm sure John will be back with us shortly. I guess we're gonna have a quick pause and talk about this wine a little bit, answer some questions while we wait for John. All right. So we have a question that's come in from the audience from Ingrid, which says, what makes our critics say that this is definitely a cool climate wine? Like what is the thing that makes you so like so certain that it is a cool climate wine? Who'd like to take this question?
Well, I can say that really acidity is one of the biggest markers of cool climate wine. So the higher the acidity, either the cooler the vintage or the cooler the region, right? So that's number one. Two, the ripeness of fruit, right? So if you get a lot of black fruit or dark fruit, you're probably looking at a warmer climate than you would be for lots of red fruit. Now, that being said, lots of varieties have those characteristics. For example, Pinot Noir tends to have more red fruit, and Tempranillo, as we saw last week as well too, a little bit more on the red fruit. So you have to balance both. What do you think the grape variety is with those cool, high acidic tendencies from cooler climates?
Amazing. And John, welcome back.
My son kicked the internet cord out, you know, all the things planned for, that wasn't one of them. Anyhow, sorry about that. How did we do? How did we do?
You won the round. You got 9 points.
Really? What was it?
Yeah.
What was the wine? I'm dying
The
to know.
wine is Hidden Bench Estate Organic Unfiltered Pinot Noir 2019, Canada, Niagara Peninsula, Beamsville Bench, and the price is $34.95. I think you were just off on the price, to be honest.
Wait a second. I said 35. I was 5 cents off.
Oh no, then it was the vintage, because I believe you said 2018. I
Anyhow.
forgot which one it was. I was distracted with your presence being gone. But congratulations. And to catch you up, Sarah is behind you by 1 point at 8. And we have David and Michael in third place, tied with 4 points. We're going to answer a couple questions from our audience, and it looks like everyone is welcoming everyone back. There we go. So we have a couple of questions happening here. We had, what does organic mean in terms of a wine? That came out. I think that's a really good question to answer. It is a Canadian wine, so I think we're able to answer that a little bit better than organic from a different country as well. Michael, does that mean you would like to answer this question?
No, that means that I wanted to comment that our combined score in round one may have set a Wine-A-Line critics record.
It has actually.
Okay, so these vials of misery, as we refer to them, were not so miserable collectively in round one.
I like your optimism, Michael.
Yeah.
Say it.
No, you were. You guys did great. This is the highest scoring first round I think we've had. This is good news. This is good news, everyone. But Michael, do you also want to answer what organic wine means for Ontario?
Well, sure. I mean, or to farm organically, obviously, is to not just be sustainable, but to not use any herbicides, pesticides, no spraying. There's certain copper levels, all the levels of things that are allowed within organic viticulture. But number one, what organic means, if you are declaring yourself organic, is that you've been certified. So you've probably gone through the 2-year process of being audited and all of your practices being checked upon, and eventually you come out the other end with the signature that says you are certified organic. So really organic, I mean, that's what it really means, because if you're not certified, you say I farm organically or I practice organically, but you don't say I'm organic unless you're certified. But we all know that organic farming means to do things in the most natural way possible, which avoids the use of bad chemicals.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. We had another question that came in from Ellen and Paul, and it is, what does twiggy mean when you're tasting a wine? What does twiggy mean? David, do you want to answer that one?
Sure, yeah. You just have to take a walk tomorrow, go by a tree, break off a little twig or stem and chew it. And you get that sort of woody, green, tannic flavor. But it's a gentle way of saying that there's sort of that green element. And twiggy is a great little word, actually. I use it a lot in my reviews, and it's not a mean sounding word at all. But it means that the wine is not all fruit. There's a little bit of herbaceous, vegetative, maybe slightly bitter character in there.
Fantastic. And then we're going to just do a couple other questions. It's like, how we had a question come in, which is how could you identify limestone? John, I think you said limestone, or are you also raising your hand to add a point to Twiggy?
I was just going to add to the twig with Pinot Noir. It's a common technique to include the stems along with the skins and the grapes and all the rest of it. It's called whole bunch fermentation. I don't know if Hidden Bench used it on this particular one, but I'd wager there was a percentage. Imagine you clipped a bunch of grapes, you throw the whole thing into the vat, so you get a little influence from the stems. You do get a little twigginess, a little stemmy character. And limestone. How do I identify limestone? I have no idea. It's just one of those. It's just one of those feelings you get inside. You know, that warm, fuzzy limestone feeling. Don't you get that as well? No, it's. I'm actually reading a book by Pedro Parra. He's a consulting terroir specialist. He digs pits of dirt in vineyards all around the world, and I really enjoyed his writing, the way he describes how he translates as this consultant what he sees in the vineyard to what he tastes in the glass. He's one of the few guys who knows anything about geology and soils who can also taste wine. It's not a pitch for his book, but it's a really, really worthwhile book. And he's always describing, you know, the feeling of granite or the feeling of limestone or the feeling of volcanics. And I'm trying to work that into my tasting. I mean, it's always been in the background, but sometimes you just get this sensation, this textural sensation. And then again, if you know the theory, if you think it's
and there is Michael for an example of what limestone is. There we go.
What does it taste like, Michael? You want to give that a little lick? And
well, I noticed that someone on the chat, Pam, just said I've licked a lot of rocks too. So, you know, I will admit to having licked a rock or two in my time. You know, it's a lot more fun to just taste wine and sense limestone, like get that warm fuzzy feeling like John is talking about. This particular rock is from Italy, but still limestone gives a certain character to wine. It just does. Whether it's just sort of this accentuation of the red fruit of whatever particular variety you're tasting, but it adds some kind of taste element and also a tannic element that gives structure and longevity to wine.
The wine critics and sommeliers are a strange breed, always licking and sniffing at things. Next time you see someone doing that, ask them if they're a wine critic.
Yeah, that would probably be the best thing to do, or just like don't talk to them, and like keep walking by and be like they're a wine critic or something. Anyway, we have one last question before we move on. We had a lot of questions come in, and by the way, guys, there is a poll up that just came down right now. We just want to know how many people are at home with you watching this evening. We really love to see that you guys are with us tonight. And we are so happy to see that there are many people at your home being entertained by these fun experiments that we're doing, these fun blind tastings. All right, so our last question is, can we touch on what unfiltered means in this? I think people wanted to know what does unfiltered mean in this case when the wine clearly does not look unfiltered? So any critic that wants to address this one, then we're going to be moving on to wine number 2.
Well, I can do that very quickly. I mean, the stating of unfiltered is to kind of let consumers know that they may expect to see some cloudiness in the wine. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, but it's also saying that, you know, it's a statement by the winemaker saying, we don't want to filter this because if we're filtering out the solids that might make it cloudy, we're probably also filtering out some of the body and structure of the wine. And with lighter body wines like Pinot Noir, they don't want to make them too light and lean. So they're saying it for 2 good reasons.
Amazing. Thank you so very much, David. I really appreciate that. All right, critics, let's get out the second vial that you guys have there. It's going to show that everything's above board here, everyone. For all of you that are watching at home with a couple of other people, this is how we're keeping honesty with everyone going on. So let's pour that into glasses. And then we are going to send our critics over to the critics lounge so that they can get a sense of what the wine is, and we can find out what it is before they do. All right, our second wine from the evening, we're going to a completely different place. Our wine is the Château La Croix de Queynac, and it is a varietal blend. It's 60% Merlot, 40% Cabernet Sauvignon. It's from the country of France. It's from the region of Bordeaux. The appellation is the AOC Bordeaux Supérieur, and the vintage is 2018. The price is $16.95. And this wine has been sponsored by United Stars Corporation Group. Thank you very much for that, guys. All right, so we're going to get our critics to come back into the room. I see there's a beautiful chat happening, a beautiful conversation happening within our chat, and we absolutely love that. I do want to remind everybody not to give away what the wine is as our critics are tasting it. We do want them to have as honest opinion as possible. Welcome back, critics. Fantastic. All right, so we're gonna get started with wine number 2. And I think I'm going to go over to who looks the most confident. Let's go to David first. David, you went last this round, so maybe go first this round.
Thanks, Renee. Just want to say, hey, critics, that's a great critics lounge they're putting us into, isn't it? You know, fully stocked bar, you know, it's just wonderful. Anyway, yeah, so this is a nice, easy drinking, medium bodied, fairly soft wine. The acid's a little bit low. Alcohol is warm, a little bit noticeable. Tannins are okay, a little bit high maybe. It's pretty well proportioned and balanced. It's really hard to actually guess what it is. I still haven't, so I'll get some time to think about it some more. But it's a really pleasant sort of kind of everyday wine that will satisfy a lot of people for kind of sort of everyday drinking. Just open something that's a little bit rich and soft and not too challenging.
Thank you. And all right, so Sarah, what are your first thoughts on wine number 2?
Yeah, so one of the things was a color. I noticed that it was almost verging on garnet. So either maybe some oxidative winemaking or maybe a little bit of age to add to that. But, you know, David's quite right. It is, you know, it's a little bit hard to place. I think that it has some warmth to it, notable warmth, especially compared to the other one. And by warmth, I mean that warmth in the back of your throat that indicates higher alcohol levels. So this could come from a warmer climate. And given the tannins are kind of rounded like that, I think it's also suggestive of someplace warmer as well. But as the fruit goes, there's a little bit of black and red fruit, like strawberry jam was something that I noticed here. And there's certainly a bit of wood, just a little bit of wood.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Those are some great thoughts. I think you've maybe steered some thoughts with that one too. All right, we're going to go over to John. John, what are your first thoughts on wine number 2?
My first thoughts are that this is a tough wine to guess. It's already been pretty well described. It's pretty ripe and juicy and floral. I get a little bit of a violet tone from the wine. Also some blue fruit. I'll add that into Sarah's red and black. And a touch of alcoholic heat, a smidge of wood. Here's my deductive logic here. This seems to come from a fairly warm climate, maybe a warm climate, but I get a lot of natural freshness here. The acids seem to be integrated with the condition of the fruit. So I would guess that it's maybe an earlier harvested version of a grape from a warm climate to do something a little fresher, more easy drinking. It's quite charming, I have to say. Nice juicy little wine.
Love that. I love that tasting note. Charming is a beautiful tasting note. All right. And Michael, for round number 2, what are your first thoughts?
So first thoughts are important here because this one is flipping around for me and you know, I'm going to have to try to narrow it down. But everything everybody said, I agree with. Juicy, ripe. I would say a pretty warm climate, but not necessarily a hot or / New World climate. Could be either. Red to black fruit, so it's kind of like imagine a cherry, but it's a black cherry. I mean, that's really kind of where it goes. But I also feel like this chalkiness that once would have been chalky tannin that is now kind of liquid chalky. So it is integrated and the wood has melted in. And so I think it's got a few years under its belt, which makes it more confusing because is it warm climate, cold climate, New World, Old World? Hard to say. But I like the kind of, there's a little bit of an old world sentimentality in this to me. And there's kind of like, not blood orange, but an orange scent to it. And also kind of this Mediterranean kind of black olive feel to it. So, but again, I think age and a little bit of oxidation and melting of wood has led to all of this idea. That's enough.
You have a lot to sort through on that one. I'm gonna let you do it. You're going last this round, so don't worry about that in that way. All right, so I'm gonna head back over to David. David, what is your answer for wine number 2?
Okay, well, I'm going to again stick with my original thoughts, which hasn't really got me very far overall. But The overall feel of this wine, and I agree with my counterparts about sort of warm climate, but not hot. I think it's European. I'm going to Spain, and that's taking me to Tempranillo. There may be some Merlot in this blend. And I'm not going to Rioja. I think it's a little bit softer than Rioja's. The acid's a little bit lower, a little bit warmer. But again, it could be a warm year like 2018. So I'm going to actually go a little bit to the south to Ribera del Duero in Spain as the appellation. Vintage 2017, price about $19.95.
All right. Thank you very much, David. Sarah, back over to you. What is wine number 2 to you?
I was thinking maybe the Languedoc, but I've moved further south. I think this could be Primitivo, given the red fruit and the jammy red fruit here. And so I'm going to say Primitivo from Puglia. I'm going to give this, and just that slight bitterness, saltiness. Okay. But he also said, Michael said Mediterranean, which really, I don't know, gave me this thought about Puglia. Anyway, I'm going to say Puglia Primitivo 2018. And I will say the price on this is $17.95.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. John, what is wine number 2? What is your final answer for wine number 2?
Renee, I'm not really confident with this wine. I'm going to give you an answer because I have to. My colleagues have put some interesting things on the table to consider. I'm going to go a different route. I think this could be, or reminds me of, in any case, even if it isn't, a early harvested Malbec from Mendoza, made with a little bit of an old world feel. So I think it's relatively young, but remember they got an extra 6 months on us. So I'm going to say 2019 and 1895.
Amazing and fantastic. So we're going to go back over to Michael. Michael, what is your final answer for wine number 2? And also I have to say, I think you might have spoken too soon before, but based on this round, what's your final answer for wine number 2?
This is a tough one, Renee, I got to say. And as you can see, everybody's all over the map. I like where Sarah's going. I'm in Italy too with this. I just can't, there's again, that old world sentimentality that I get. No shocker, to me, that's Italian sentimentality. I'm just trying to decide whether this is endemic grape mixed with other kind of expatriate varieties, or whether it's, you know, something just solo on its own, and how far south in Italy I should go. So I'm torn between Puglia, just like Sarah, and Tuscany. So I'm actually gonna go to Tuscany.
Okay.
I think this is an IGT blend. This is a sort of a, you know, IGT Toscana. It's a mix of Sangiovese and probably Cabernet and Merlot. As I said, I think it's got some age on it, so I'll say 2015. For around $20, $21, I would say. I'm going to lock in on.
And you're going to stick with Toscana IGT as your application.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. All right, let's find out what wine number 2 is. I'm sure you guys are so excited to figure out what this one is. We've had so many answers come across the board. All right, so wine number 2 is the Château La Croix de Queynac, and it's the 2018. It's a blend of 60% Merlot and 40% Cabernet Sauvignon. It's from France. It's from Bordeaux. It is the AOC Bordeaux Superior appellation, and the vintage is 2018, and the price is $16.95. So we went a little bit different this time.
Boy, we nailed that, eh, guys?
Yeah, great.
We certainly picked what it wasn't. I think we covered off a lot of geographical area that actually centers on Bordeaux.
Missouri.
Yeah, I might have spoken a bit too soon on that one, but I'm going to get our scoring wizard to share the scores so far. We have John and Sarah tied for first with 11 points. We have David in next with 8 points, followed by Michael with 7 points. This is a really high scoring round. Overall, we have some good points coming up. And also, we're going to be putting out a poll right now. I know that everyone in our audience, we could take down the numbers for now, Scoring Wizard. Thank you. And we're going to put up a poll. Who do you think is going to be the champion of the evening? I know some of you have said that you wanted to do the votes per round, and we have listening to that. We're always trying new stuff here on Think You Know Wine, but we'll get you to put your votes in on who's going to win the night. All right, let's dive into some questions here. Everybody went in a different direction. Why do you think does anybody want to take a stab at why none of you went to France, really?
I'll start off there. To me, the acid was fairly low. This does not have typical Bordeaux acidity to me. It does have a little bit of Merlot-ish character, and I really like where John went with the Malbec. I thought, oh boy, that could be right. So these Bordeaux variety, right? Malbec's a Bordeaux variety. It just was a little bit too soft, and that's because 2018 was a hot vintage, and all the European wines are softer and riper than we normally expect.
Very, very true.
I'd say it's also worth recognizing that when you get wines in this price point, and $16, $16.95 is pretty entry level for Bordeaux. They're a little tougher to get because they're made in an easier drinking style. They're not meant to be aged for a long period of time, so they lose a little bit of the distinctiveness. I think it's fair to say. Not that this is a poor quality wine. It's just not the most distinctive Bordeaux. It's not intended to be. It's not priced as such.
And I just wanted to point. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to further define that when John does say distinctiveness, for anyone that is a new wine drinker in the audience, but he really means it's not pinpointed to a very specific place that would have a very specific flavor or taste that's instantly recognizable. It's an expression of a much, much larger region. It's like saying that we're from Toronto or from Canada. That's mean two very different things depending on where you're at. But Sarah, go right ahead.
No, I just want to say kudos to Michael too. I mean, he was looking at IGT Toscana, which could very easily be a Bordeaux style blend from the old world. And so that was a really good guess.
And it's the third time actually in these sessions that I have kind of pinpointed the style of wine, but France, Italy, I've gone to the wrong. I once went to France when I should have gone to Italy. No, I went to Italy when I should have gone to France. I've done it 3 times that way. So they are at this, and John's right, at this level, at this price point, there's a ubiquity to what we're nosing and what we're tasting, which makes it hard to pinpoint.
Stick with your third impression, Michael, and everything should be fine.
Yeah, we'll start awarding points for the style next. Okay, just general styles. Why we'll add it. It'll be like a bonus point. Okay, you can win all the bonus points. All right, we have one more question that's come in before we go on to round number 3, and that one is Michael. Actually, this is specifically for you, Michael. Why does apparently you said this. Why does hot have to be in the New World? What does New World mean in this context? So in the context of talking about why the wine is hot, why do you feel like there was a distinction between Old World and New World?
To me, it's as simple as, and Sarah touched on this when we were talking about cool climate. We were talking about Pinot Noir. So the cooler the climate, the longer the growing season. The longer the growing season, the longer the phenolics. Now, we're not talking about the sugars, but we're talking about the actual ripeness of the wine, stems, seeds, all of the components of the wine, of the grape. The longer they have to elongate and ripen, the more they become a ripe wine in a cool climate. So when we get heat, when we get real warmth off of a wine like this, we're looking at a shorter growing season. We're looking at wines that are likely picked in August, September at the latest kind of thing, and as opposed to wines in cooler climates, which includes Bordeaux, which includes parts of Tuscany, where you're picking in the last week of September or the first 2 weeks of October, longer growing season, and so things don't seem as warm. Hot vintages or hot climates will give this effect.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael. And we did have one question that just came in right now that I think is really compelling for this wine. Also, and then I'll share who's everybody thinks is going to win the night. So we have a question come in that says, when a wine is made in a more commercial style, what clues can you use to narrow down its origin? It seems like these can be some of the hardest wines to place during a blind tasting. So anybody want to answer that one?
Well, I think John already did kind of at the beginning, when it's less expensive, it is probably made in larger quantities and volumes. Doesn't necessarily have the same structure. The length of finish is a very key thing for me. Like this does not have a long finish to it, and that's what immediately took me under $20. By the way, in my price guess. So they're shorter. If they're well made, they're balanced, as this one is. But again, just lacking that distinction.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody. All right, we are going to get on to round number 3, everyone. So critics, I'm going to get you to open your wines, and I'm just going to share with you as we send you off to the critic lounge that our audience thinks that, John, you are the most likely to win the night. Sarah is next up, and then Michael and David are pretty much tied on that one. Just a little bit of a booster on this. So we're going to get you guys to go over to the critics lounge. Yes, we furnished it. There's lots of things happening there. It's beautiful. It's great. It has heater or air conditioning, whichever one you feel like you want to do. You're literally transported out of your house into somewhere completely different within the critics lounge.
Kind of like the airport, right?
Yeah, it's just like the airport. It's like you're traveling. Amazing. All right, everybody. Thank you, guys. I'm going to start showing my screen here. And we are going to go on to wine number 3 for the evening. All right, so wine number 3 for tonight is the Catena Lunlunta Old Vines Malbec. The varietal is Malbec. The country is Argentina. The region is Mendoza. The appellation is Lunlunta, and we also have the vintage as 2018. The price is $22.95. So we're going to see what our critics think about this wine. Let me just stop my screen here as we bring them back into the room. Let's see how they do with wine number 3. And I am going to remind our audience again that if you could please not give any answers about the wine in the chat, that'd be absolutely amazing. No clues to our critics. They would like to work as hard as possible. And we're going to go over to our first critic of the night. And that is going to be, let's see, who hasn't gone first yet? Sarah. Sarah, what are your first thoughts on wine number 3?
Well, when I first smelled it, it really smelled like it was from the New World. I think it's a wine that certainly is high in alcohol. It does have some lovely floral primary fruit characteristics here too, which are notable, but also wood, also oak and sweeter oak and some vanilla, a little bit maybe of coconut as well too. If you look at the color of this wine, it's got purplish hues to it as well too. So that can be indicative of some varieties that don't oxidize as quickly, but substantial, big. I was actually thinking if this was from the old world, I was actually thinking of a region like Priorat that tends to make more modern styles of wine, but just the given the intensity of color and alcohol, I'm swaying towards the New World.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to go over to David next. David, what are your first thoughts on wine number 3?
Well, again, this is a lovely wine for a cold winter evening. So this is the one I'm enjoying the most so far tonight. It's definitely ripe. It's a hot climate. There's a lovely texture to this wine, sort of kind of luxurious. The tannins are there, but it's not astringent. And with wines like this, I sometimes expect there to be noticeable residual sugar. And there's not here. It's a little sweet, you know, I mean, the sugar is not 0, but it's not one of these sweet, sort of more commercial New World wines. Lovely fruit, black fruits in it. And I'm really enjoying it, actually.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Michael, over to you. What are your first thoughts on wine number 3? Do you have equally as many thoughts as the last one?
No, I'm going to keep it much quicker this time around. I'm not going to take myself in too many directions because I only have 3 impressions to work with, right? So this speaks in a New World, New Frontier vernacular to me for sure. It bursts with violets off the nose, very floral, as Sarah mentioned. Lots of heat units, but it's under control. There's good acid to it, which balances it out. And then there's sort of this sneaky tannin that comes in, so sneaky structure. Lovely wine, lots of oak, but lovely wine, really balanced. So I'm impressed with this a lot.
Amazing. And John, for round 3, what's your first thoughts on wine number 3?
What's left to say, Renee? It's already been nicely described, but yeah, just to reiterate a couple of the key points for me, it's the color, that deep color, the high viscosity, the high alcohol. I would wager somewhere 14.5, maybe even 15%. This is a pretty heady, mouth-warming wine, gently comforting winter wine, as David said. Slightly jammy. I do think there's a pinch of residual sugar here. I'm with David. It's not a really sweet commercial style, but it's nonetheless got a little bit of a sweet edge, which helps to polish off the edges and make it a little bit smoother and rounder on the palate. So, I mean, a number of different varieties are made in this style. And yeah, I'm certainly in the New World as well. And in a warm place, I'm picturing palm trees.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to head back over to Sarah. Sarah, are you ready to give me your answer for what wine number 3 is?
Yeah. So although I was thinking of Malbec, and I think that was that roundness, that character, I was also thinking Shiraz. I was saying no to Cabernet Sauvignon because there's something too floral about it. And the tannins are a little bit rounder and more velvety. At the end of the day, I am actually going to go with Malbec. I'm going to go with Malbec. I'm going from Mendoza from 2018. And I think this is about $26.
All right. Thank you so very much, Sarah. Over to David. David, what is wine number 3?
Okay, well, I bounced around a little bit on the grape variety. You obviously go to the well-known ones first, like Merlot, Cabernet. I agree with Sarah. This is not Cabernet Sauvignon. Thought maybe Merlot. Didn't think it was Malbec. And then I said, well, I really think this wine is from California. And there's a lovely grape variety called Zinfandel in California that has this kind of lovely floral character, lots of fruit and jam. So that's where I'm going to say Zinfandel, California. Specific appellation, that's a little tougher. Some of the best are made up in the foothills, right? Or Paso Robles. It's all over the States. So, but it's also got some lovely wines in Sonoma. So I'll pick Sonoma as my place of origin. And 2018 vintage and pretty good qualities in. A lot of them are being made in a very cheap, sweet style these days. I call them mochaified, and this one isn't. So I'm going to put this at about $30.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Michael, over to you. What is your answer for what wine number 3 is?
So David, I think is right there. I have to agree with David. I think that this is a lovely version of Zinfandel. I think it's California. I think it's Zinfandel. It's not, it's in the 14.5, 15%, probably 15% alcohol, but it's not overly jammy. There is lots of vanillas, lots of new oak on it, but it's not crazy jammy, and there is a little bit of residual sugar, but Zinfandel, absolutely. I'm going to say Mendocino, and my guess is mid-20s, let's say 20. What would you pay for Mendocino Zinfandel? You'd probably pay $28 would be my guess, okay? And I think it's probably from the 2018 vintage.
Thank you very much, Michael. And John, you're last in this round. Are you going to go into one of these 2 camps, or are you going to be in a whole different one that you set up all by yourself?
Well, what's the rule again here? You're supposed to go with your first impressions?
I don't know. Ask Michael.
That was my third impression, by the way.
Third impression. I'm going to go with my first impression. I stuck my nose in the glass and I thought, Zinfandel. I flirted with Malbec, I have to say, Sarah, but since we're tied neck and neck here, I'm going to go a different direction just so one of us goes down in a blaze of glory, or up. I don't know. All right, so we are California, Zinfandel, North Coast. I think this is pretty classic Sonoma style, Sonoma County, maybe not more specific than that, just generic Sonoma County, 2018. And price, I'm in that same range, 25 to 30. I'm going to stick with 25.95.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so very much. All right. Are we ready to find out what wine number 3 is? There we go. All right. So wine number 3 is the Catena Lunlunta Old Vine Malbec from Argentina, Mendoza, from the Lunlunta Appellation, 2018 is the vintage, $22.95 is the price. And this wine was sponsored by Noble Estates Wines and Spirits. Thank you guys very much.
Way to go, Sarah.
Way to go, Sarah.
Well done.
There we go.
You guys had me really sweating there. I was thinking, oh crap, they're right.
No, you did good. You did good. All right, let's bring up our scoring wizard because it was still anyone's game. John and Sarah. John was stated to be the winner by the audience's suggestion before by voting. But let's see where we're at with this. And the winner of the evening is Sarah. Congratulations, Sarah, with 21 points. Absolutely amazing. I think that actually might be the highest score anyone's gotten on these so far. Overall, I have to go back and check. But we also have John, who has come in second place with 14 points, followed by David with 10 points, and ending with Michael with 9 points. So I'm just going to get our scoring wizards to take this down. There is some questions that's coming in from the audience, but I feel compelled to ask, Michael, what was your first and second choice since you said you went with your third for this last one?
I'm gonna be really transparent. Malbec did not enter any of my three choices. It really did not. I was thinking at first some kind of kitchen sink blend from Australia, Cab Shiraz, that type of thing. And then I was more West Coast. I actually went in my head to Washington next for red blend, but that slight jamminess, not too jammy. And it just seemed like classic Zinfandel, but not classic, but pared back Zinfandel. So pared back Zinfandel must be Malbec.
Apparently.
Okay.
I like that.
Zinfandel is the new Malbec's the new Zinfandel. Okay.
There you go. It's basically what it is now. That's how we're taking it. All right.
That's where I'm sticking to that story forever, just so you know.
Yeah, no, we're gonna write it down in a book. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some questions that have come in from the audience. All right, this some of these are just general statements. Okay, so given the many possibilities for many wines as evidenced tonight, what would the panelists suggest is the most distinctive grape and location? This is a really different question. Doesn't have anything to do with the wines that we had for tonight. Is there a grape and location that goes together that's incredibly distinctive in the glass itself? Any critics would like to take that one?
What left in my mind was Alsatian Gewürztraminer.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, that's a really good one, actually.
Yeah, I would say that an obvious answer would be a combination of a rare indigenous variety and a place where it grows and nowhere else, right? Where like Nebbiolo from Piedmont, yes, you get a bit here and there, but it's just so distinctively Piedmont. If you're thinking Nebbiolo, you have to think of northern Italy. Or, I could pull out more obscure things like Nerello Mascalese from Etna, because that grape grows almost nowhere else, and it's pretty distinctive once you know what it is like. But when you're dealing with Cabernet and Merlot and Malbec, these varieties that grow all over the world, then it becomes a little bit more of a challenge, especially since folks know how to make wine these days. There are very few bad wines. So, you do get a bit of a similarity of styles sometimes.
Totally agree. There are a lot of varieties that are distinctive of a place. So they're signature grape varieties, not just Malbec, because Malbec now grows a lot of other places. But if you think of Pinotage from South Africa or Carmenere from Chile, if you're pretty sure you've nailed down those varieties, there aren't a lot of other places where they could be grown.
Yeah, it's really true. And we did actually have a question come in pertaining to this evening as well. Speaking of these of really classic varietals for places, what are some of the similarities and differences between Zinfandel and Malbec that can be experienced within the glass? Michael, would you like to go?
Yeah.
Well, look, they're actually, really don't have a ton of similarity between them, which is why what we do in this show is so interesting, because we're looking at warmth, we're looking at acidity, we're looking at tannic structure, we're looking at a lot of things. And even though grape variety is the number one thing we're supposed to be looking at or thinking about in this idea, it's actually not where our brains are going right away. We're thinking about structural components first. So Malbec and Zinfandel are really not that similar. They're really not. Even if you think about their DNA origins in Europe, Malbec to, Southwest France and a little bit in Bordeaux, and Zinfandel sort of by way of Primitivo in Southern Italy, and also in kind of, former Yugoslavia, they don't have a lot in common in terms of their geographical location. So when they enter the New World, they become a whole another entity, that's for sure. Someone else may want to expand on that. Or not.
I think you really summed it up. I think you summed it up really well, Michael. You did a really good job. I am going to pose this question though to Sarah, because you did get Malbec correct on the last wine. Can you tell a difference between lower versus higher elevation Malbec within Mendoza?
Yeah, well, Mendoza, most of the Malbec is actually planted at higher elevation. You've got varieties like Bonarda, for example, that tend to be planted at lower elevations, but there are some really impressively high elevations above about 1,000 meters. So you do tend to get more freshness in those wines. So it's interesting, when you get up to those high elevations, you tend to get a different type of UV radiation too, a different kind of sunlight up there, you can ripen phenolically and still preserve some acidity when you get into those elevations as well too. So intriguing wines, and certainly if you come from you're planting in a very hot climate, elevation is key. So planting as high as you can. And there are other areas even outside of Mendoza that have higher elevations as well too. If you look into Salta, you can get some extraordinarily high, some of the highest vineyards in the world up there. And that type of sunlight is different and does lend a more distinctive character to the wines. And certainly that mix of both being high acid and also ripe, there aren't a lot of places that can give you that kind of flavor profile.
I know it's really interesting how much elevation can make a difference, how much we often talk as sommeliers about mountain wines as well. And I think this is a big difference here with all of that. And I know we've been talking a lot this evening about difference between New World and Old World. And I just wanted to provide a clarification for anybody that was confused within our audience. I just wanted to know a bit more. Old World is essentially Europe, and New World is everything that's not Europe. It's a really easy distinction, and there is specific differences within the wines. We also have a comment that came in, which, Sarah, your hair looks great, and you also won the hair question round, which is our fun question of the night.
We knew that.
Yeah, we already knew you were going to win. The four of us were just thrown in because we apparently wanted to be included.
Sorry.
I'm sure if you guys wanted to know what Sarah was using on her hair, you could just find her on Instagram and ask her for all those questions. We are going to stick with the wine this evening, but if you do want to know some hair care techniques, I'm sorry, I'm volunteering you to answer them, Sarah, but it seems like the best way to go.
There you go.
All right. So we are gonna ask one more question for the evening, and that is, old vines is a common phrase used on Zinfandel labels, but what is the difference between old vines for Malbec? Actually, that's not going to be our last question because I just read it out loud. I'm just going to answer that question. Old vines just means that the vines are older. They can be used on any wine label. There's also centenarian vines, which are aged, which can be 100 years old. But this can be used for any grape that has an older vine overall. So don't just pigeonhole it to being in Zinfandel. And I'm going to choose this question as the last one for the night, which is, all right, we've had 3 wines this evening, and everyone would, if any critic would like to pick a food pairing to go with one of the wines for tonight that you'd like, I'm going to start with John. John, please pick one of the wines and a food pairing that you would like to pair with that one wine.
Since I've got wine number 3 in the glass, which is a delicious Zinfandel, by the way, yeah. I mean, that style of wine, that rich, round, warm, heartwarming, palate-warming style, I like to serve that with stews. Hearty wine, a hearty food. You don't need a lot of protein and salt to break down the tannins because they're already soft. So just imagine the round, supple texture of a really rich ragu of some kind, a beef or something like that. With a glass of this wine, I think you'd be happy.
Thank you so much. All right, Michael, pick a wine and pick. No more Liza Minnelli, okay? No more Zinfandel.
Okay, well, since John picked a Zinfandel, I'll pick the Malbec. That's okay.
Good.
Because I actually have a flank steak marinating, and I'm going to grill that up shortly. And I think of all the wine, I think all three wines we had tonight will work beautifully with it. But I think the Malbec will do best. But to be honest with you, I also have a butterfly chicken that's been dry rubbed and ready to get a little smoke on it. So I think the Pinot Noir is going to match best with that. Those I'm going to make use of the rest of these easily tonight. Put it that way.
There you go. Sarah, please pick a wine, preferably one of the other two, and pair it with some, please.
Well, my husband, I'm assuming, is cooking me a mystery dinner right now. I'm not sure what it is. So I'm going to pick something versatile, which was the first one, a Pinot Noir, because I think it can work well with, I don't think he's cooking me seafood, but if he were, it probably would be nice with a grilled salmon, just as well as it would be with a roast pork. But I think he might be making me some ossobuco. So probably one of the other two would be a better pairing, actually.
Maybe wine number 2 instead for that one. We'll save our Malbec for a little bit later. And then David, what would you like to do for a pairing with one of our wines?
Well, I'm going to pick the Pinot Noir / Gamay. It's a lovely wine. And Sarah's right. Pinot Noir to me is the most versatile food wine on the planet. It goes with so many different things. Like it's right through all the heavier fish dishes. Poultry is perfect with Pinot Noir. Lighter red meats, not with a lot of heavy sauces and that kind of thing. One of the things that I love to eat when I'm dining out, and oh boy, aren't we missing restaurants?
Don't
at
even,
least in Toronto.
Bring it up.
Oh my God, I want to go to a restaurant and I want to order a lovely, almost rare duck breast, and have it with a really good Pinot Noir.
And to that.
So, cheers to that, David. I'm sure we all miss getting out there, and don't forget everybody to support any restaurants that you can when you can. They all need your help as much as possible, but that's an absolutely beautiful pairing. But thank you so much, critics, for joining us this evening. An absolutely amazing episode, a fantastic episode, and cheers, everyone. I hope to see you again on our next episode of Think You Know Wine.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, cheers. Good night. Enjoy your dinner.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Cheers.